Adama had always heard the stories, tales of forbidden love that defied boundaries, of passions so fierce they tore villages apart, and of hearts that burned brighter than the sun. But she never thought it would happen to her. It was always something reserved for others, something that couldn't touch the girl who followed the rules. Yet, as the dusk settled over the village of Zubari with the wind carrying ancient secrets, Adama's life took a turn she never expected. She locked eyes with Koffi, a stranger from a neighboring tribe, across the fire during the annual harvest festival, and in that instant, everything she knew about the world shattered. The flickering flames reflected in Koffi's eyes, a storm of longing and mystery as he slowly turned to meet her gaze. It was as if the entire universe paused. A moment of fate, of destiny. For the first time in her life, Adama felt the pull of something she could neither control nor understand. The wind howled through the trees, carrying their gazes together in a dance of silent understanding. The world around them melted away, leaving only the raw connection between them. She knew then, this was not just a fleeting moment. This was the beginning of a love that would defy everything. The following night, under the blanket of stars, Adama ventured into the woods, heart racing with excitement and trepidation. She had to see him again. The fire had ignited something within her, and she couldn't ignore it. She knew the risks, the dangers of getting too close to him. Their tribes were sworn enemies, bound by an unspoken rule that forbidden love was punishable by death. Yet she couldn't stop herself. She reached the clearing by the river, where the moonlight shone like silver on the rippling water. There, standing in the shadows, was Koffi. His presence, quiet yet commanding, sent a wave of warmth through her body. As he stepped forward, their eyes locked once more, and for the first time, they were truly alone. "I had to see you," Adama whispered, barely audible, her heart pounding in her chest. Koffi smiled, a slow, knowing smile as he stepped closer, the air between them thick with anticipation. "I couldn't stay away either," he said softly, his voice low and rich like a secret waiting to be shared. Their fingers brushed in the silence, and the world seemed to spin around them. The moment they touched, something ignited within Adama, as if their souls had collided. She felt an electric spark, a connection so deep that it transcended words. She had crossed the line, and there was no going back. In the following days, their secret meetings continued. They exchanged glances during the village's daily routines, their stolen moments filled with longing. One evening, as the sun began to set, Koffi handed Adama something delicate, a single red feather. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, the deep crimson hue shimmering in the fading light. "This is for you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "A symbol of what we are." Adama held the feather in her hand, feeling its weight, knowing that it was more than just a token. It was a promise, a symbol of defiance against everything that stood between them. She could feel the pulse of their love within it, strong and undeniable. As she stared at the feather, her heart swelled with emotion. She knew the dangers, the risks, but at that moment, none of it seemed to matter. Koffi was the one thing she couldn't deny, the one thing that made her feel alive. The village began preparing for the annual harvest festival, a time of celebration, feasts, and dancing. It was also the time when the entire village would be gathered together, and the elders would oversee the rites that kept the peace and unity within the community. For Adama and Kofi, however, it was a time of fear. The harvest festival was the one event where their love could not remain a secret. Koffi had been chosen to lead the ceremonial dance, an honor reserved for the strongest and bravest among the tribe. As the night approached, Adama watched him from a distance, her heart aching. She couldn't stand to see him in the spotlight, surrounded by others, unable to touch him, unable to show their love. But as the firelight flickered in the distance, Kofi's eyes found hers. A knowing smile crossed his face, and in that moment, everything around them faded away. The music played, the crowd cheered, but all Adama could see was Koffi. She could feel the heat of his gaze, the magnetic pull that drew her toward him. After the festival, Adama's family began to notice the change in her. Her late-night wanderings had become more frequent, her distracted demeanor harder to ignore. It wasn't long before her father, a respected elder in the tribe, confronted her. "Where have you been, Adama?" he asked, his voice stern and cold. "You are not a child anymore. Your actions reflect on our family." Adama's heart raced as she faced him. "Father, I am only— do not speak to me of your feelings," he interrupted. "This foolishness with Koffi must end. It is a betrayal of everything we stand for." Her father's words stung, but they also fueled a fire inside her. She had always followed the rules, always done what was expected of her, but for the first time she was willing to risk it all. "I will not stop seeing him," she said firmly. Her voice was steady, but inside she trembled. Her father's face hardened. "Then you will not be part of this family anymore." Days passed, and as Adama's defiance grew, so did the tension between her and the rest of the village. One evening a new suitor appeared, a man named Tund, strong, loyal, and respected among the people. He was the perfect match for Adama, and her family hoped she would choose him, but her heart already belonged to Kofi. Tund was everything the tribe wanted, obedient, strong, and committed to the traditions. But as he sought Adama's attention, she felt nothing but resentment. Every time he looked at her, every word he spoke, reminded her that her heart was with someone else. "I will prove myself worthy of you, Adama," Tund declared one night as he offered her a necklace made of precious stones. "Choose me and our families will be united." But Adama's gaze drifted, searching for Kofi in the distance, a silent promise in her heart that no matter what Tund did, her love for Kofi would never fade. One night, as the moonlight bathed the village in soft light, Adama met Kofi by the river once more. The air was thick with the scent of rain, and the world seemed to hold its breath as they exchanged their first kiss. It was a kiss that held all their longing, all their frustration, and all their passion. Adama felt a fire ignite deep within her, one that could never be extinguished. She wrapped her arms around Kofi, pressing herself against him as the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them now, nothing else mattered. As their love grew, so did the whispers around the village. Some spoke of it as a thing of beauty, a forbidden romance that transcended boundaries, while others saw it as a curse, something that would destroy the peace of the tribe. One day during the morning ritual, the village elder accused Adama of witchcraft, claiming that her relationship with Kofi had brought an evil curse upon them. The people turned their backs on her, the weight of their judgment heavy on her shoulders. But Kofi stood beside her, refusing to let her face the accusation alone. He knew that their love was worth fighting for, even if it meant going against everything they had been taught. In the midst of the growing chaos, Adama learned of a hidden family secret. Her great-grandmother, a woman revered for her wisdom, had once fallen in love with a man from Kofi's tribe. The forbidden love had nearly torn their people apart, but it had also brought peace in the end. This revelation gave Adama the courage to face her future with Kofi. Knowing their love was not as new as it seemed, it had been written in their blood long before. Kofi and Adama decided to escape together. They planned to leave the village and start a new life, far away from the prying eyes of their families and their tribe. But as the day of their escape drew nearer, a tragedy struck. A fire broke out in the village, and Adama's family was blamed for it. As the flames consumed everything, they knew their time to leave had come. They had no choice but to run. The villagers, enraged by the fire, set out to find Kofi and Adama. The couple fled into the jungle, the dense trees offering some shelter. But the hunters were relentless. They knew the land like the back of their hands, and it wouldn't be long before they were caught. As they ran, their hearts pounding in fear, they found solace in each other's presence. The chase was on, but they would face it together. Adama and Kofi ran through the thick jungle, their feet pounding the earth beneath them. The night was alive with sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant cries of animals, and their breath, ragged and hurried. They didn't stop. They couldn't afford to stop. "We have to keep going," Kofi urged, his hand gripping hers tightly. His voice was low, filled with urgency. Yet there was an underlying calm in the way he moved. He was used to danger, to fighting against the odds. Adama, on the other hand, was filled with an unfamiliar terror. She had never run away before. She had never defied her people so completely. As they pressed on, the jungle's dense canopy seemed to swallow them whole, hiding them from the village that was desperately searching for them. The moonlight barely pierced through the leaves, casting eerie shadows across their path. Adama felt Kofi's hand gently squeeze hers, a silent reassurance that they weren't alone. She looked up at him, her heart swelling with love and fear. "Kofi," she whispered, "what if they find us? What if we can't outrun them?" His gaze softened, and for a moment, the intensity of the chase seemed to disappear. "We will outrun them. As long as we have each other, there's nothing we can't face." Adama nodded, trying to believe in his words, but deep down, she knew their love was something they could never truly escape. The chase stretched through the night, and by dawn, they found themselves deep within the jungle. The familiar sounds of the village had faded, replaced by the chirps of birds and the rustling of unseen creatures. Exhausted and disoriented, they collapsed onto the ground by a small stream, their bodies aching from the run. Kofi pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her as they lay in the grass, both of them breathing heavily. The jungle seemed to encircle them, a place that offered no judgment, no rules, just freedom. Adama rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. "Do you think we can really be free, Kofi? Do you think we can make it out of here alive?" He stroked her hair, his touch gentle but firm. "As long as we're together, nothing else matters. We'll build our own future, one where no one can tell us who we should love." His words were a promise, and for the first time Adama allowed herself to believe in that promise. She closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep in his arms. The weight of the world temporarily lifted from her shoulders. But freedom, as they would soon learn, was fleeting. The next morning, as they ventured further into the jungle, the air grew thick with tension. Adama could feel Kofi's unease, the way his eyes darted from shadow to shadow, his body taut and alert. "I don't like this," he murmured. "Something's not right." Before Adama could respond, they heard the sound of footsteps, heavy, purposeful, coming from behind them. They froze, eyes wide in fear. "Get down," Kofi hissed, pulling Adama to the ground. They hid behind a thick cluster of vines, holding their breath as the footsteps drew closer. A voice called out, "They went this way. Track them down. Don't let them escape." Adama's heart dropped. The villagers had found them. They weren't as far from home as they had hoped. But what shocked her even more was the voice that had spoken. It was her sister Amina. "Amina," Adama whispered in disbelief, her chest tight with the sting of betrayal. "She's the one who told them." Kofi's face hardened with anger, but he didn't speak. Instead, he motioned for Adama to stay quiet, his hand firm on her arm as they crouched in the bushes, waiting for the hunters to pass. The pain of her sister's betrayal was like a knife twisting in Adama's heart. She had trusted Amina, believed she was the one person who would stand by her. But now it seemed that no one was left on their side. As the day wore on, they continued to hide, moving only when the hunters had passed. But the tension between them grew. Adama could feel it. The weight of her sister's betrayal, the fear of what would happen if they were caught. The love they shared seemed to be fading into something darker, something more dangerous. Kofi pulled her aside in the late afternoon, his face grim. "Adama, we can't keep running forever. We need a plan." Adama nodded, wiping the tears from her eyes. "What do you mean?" "We need to leave this land entirely. Find a new place. Away from the tribe, away from everything." He looked deep into her eyes. "You can't stay in the jungle forever, and I can't watch you suffer." His words struck deep, and Adama felt a deep ache in her chest. "I don't want to leave you," she said, her voice trembling, "but I don't know if I can keep going. The pain of losing my family, losing everything I've ever known, it's too much." Kofi cupped her face in his hands, his thumb gently brushing away a tear. "Then let's make a new family, a new life. I will be your home, Adama. I will be your everything." The intensity of his words, the raw emotion in his eyes, melted her fears. She wrapped her arms around him, holding on tightly as if she could never let go. "I will follow you anywhere, Kofi. You're all I have now." With the villagers still in pursuit, Adama and Kofi began to make their way toward the border of the jungle, toward an unknown future. They traveled by night, hiding by day, surviving on whatever they could find. Each step brought them closer to the edge of the world they once knew, and each night spent together deepened their bond. In the quiet of the jungle, with only the stars as their witness, they spoke of dreams of a life beyond the constraints of their tribes, of a world where love wasn't punished, where they could finally be free. For the first time, Adama allowed herself to imagine a life where nothing stood between her and Kofi, where they could wake up next to each other without fear, without shame. A life where their love was not a crime but a choice. As they neared the border, a terrible realization dawned on them. The hunters were closing in. Their footsteps were too loud, their presence too strong. It seemed there was nowhere left to run. Kofi turned to Adama, determination in his eyes. "This is it. We fight for our love, for our freedom." Adama nodded, her heart pounding. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she would face it with Kofi by her side. They stood together, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. When the hunters finally caught up with them, they found Kofi and Adama standing at the edge of a cliff, the dark ocean waves crashing below them. The villagers called out to them, demanding they return to the village, promising mercy if they did. But Kofi and Adama stood their ground, their hearts beating as one. "We will not go back," Kofi declared, his voice strong. "Our love is not something you can destroy." The villagers hesitated, unsure of what to do. Adama looked around at the faces that once knew her as a daughter, as a sister, and she felt a pang of sadness. But she knew what she had to do. With no other options left, Adama and Kofi made a desperate choice. They leaped from the edge of the cliff into the unknown, choosing freedom over a life of oppression. Years later, the legend of Adama and Kofi's love became a story told across generations. Some say they survived, building a new life far from the tribes that had once ruled them. Others say their love became a symbol of defiance, reminding future generations that love, no matter how forbidden, could never truly be extinguished. Do you believe Adama and Kofi's love was worth the ultimate sacrifice? Could you ever choose love over family and tradition, knowing the consequences? Would you make the same choice if it meant freedom but at the cost of everything else?